Ashleigh. Today we want to get to know everything about you. Um,
Yay.
Starting from, what were your belief systems? How did you start? Tell us everything.
I guess we'll start there.
Every little detail.
Every little detail. Okay. I have been aware, I'm sure people listening have heard this before. I've been aware of spirit since I was a child. I'd have experiences in my bedroom with what I now know to be my spirit team, but also family members who had crossed over, specifically my grandparents. Um, I'm trying not to say so I'm gonna have to work on that. And I told my mom what I was experiencing because my mom would tell me things that she was experiencing. And she taught me to never tell anyone what I was experiencing because they would put me in the mental hospital and call me crazy. So I was shut down for a long time. I also grew up religious. I grew up going to church. So, you're reading the Bible, going to Sunday school, communion, all of that. And you're being taught that people like you are an abomination to the Lord and that, basically there's something wrong with you. And that was so contradictory to how I felt internally because I felt, the presence in my bedroom was very loving. It wasn't demonic, it wasn't evil, it wasn't, telling me negative things. It was very loving and very positive. And how I felt inside also reflected that. I was like, I have so much love. I care so deeply. I'm so empathetic. I feel literally everything. It's very overwhelming for me. I'm highly sensitive. So how can this be demonic? How can this be wrong? It just didn't really line up for me. So to basically protect myself, I was bullied at school. So I shut down for a long time. I didn't want to be more of an outcast than I already was. I've kind of always known since I was a kid that I'm different than others. I'm just very sensitive. Growing up, I was very gullible. My brother and my sister would literally tell me crazy things, and I'd believe it because I thought everyone was honest and loving and upfront. And I had to learn that the hard way growing up, that people a lot of times are not like that, and they like to take advantage of people who are a little bit more on the naive side. So I had to really learn how to stand up for myself. That was a major life lesson for me. I had to learn how to deal with my sensitivity that was very overwhelming, almost crippling to a point, and anxiety that I've had. I'd say probably for the last. It was interesting. Growing up, I feel like my coping mechanism, I'm not sure why I'm talking about this, but I'm just going to go with it. I feel like growing up the first, years till about 20, my coping mechanism was to suppress and shove everything down. Nothing phases me. I just keep working hard. I keep going. Nothing really bothers me. And then I feel when I got into my 20s, all of these things started happening and I started to open up emotionally. And it was like releasing the floodgates. And I started to really get into like philosophy. I started looking at, energy work very minimally because I was very scared of what was out there because I had been raised to believe that what I was experiencing was wrong. So it took me quite a few years to really get comfortable and really, step out of my comfort zone. But eventually, what ended up happening was I was in a long term relationship. I walked away from that. I started completely over by myself. And I went through a massive spiritual awakening. I came across a Reiki course. I think it was literally like $40 for like a level one attunement. I thought, why not take it, learn how to heal myself? And I took it, and it was honestly like I went from one day watching life on a regular channel to turning the channel, and now everything is in HD, everything is enhanced, magnified. My sense of smell, how I perceive things, my visions, stuff like that started happening. And I thought, oh my God, like this is really amazing. So I ended up learning level two and I went on to my master attunement. And that's when I asked for better clairvoyancy because I've always been a feeler and a knower. I'm one of those people I can walk into a room and I can sense if the energy's off or if someone's had a fight. I'm very sensitive to energy. So when I did my master attunement, I'd asked for the gift of clairvoyance. And I always tell people, be careful what you wish for, because then I started seeing all kinds of things. I was doing treatments on people and their family, their friends, people who had crossed over would show up. So I thought I've got to do something about this, even though I'm terrified of what's happening. I'm also slightly intrigued by it. And I feel like my journey in that sense kind of like haunted me in a sense. It's slowly developed over time at a pace that was comfortable for me, but also pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I've kind of always known since I was younger that I was more than likely going to walk a spiritual path. So when I started having all these experiences, I knew that it was not by chance. I knew that there was a reason why all this was happening. There was a reason why I was born the way that I was, with the abilities that I have or the sensitivities that I have. So I've now fully pretty much stepped into that path, though there's always days where, you know, the doubts creep in, where you question, am I on the right path? Am I doing this for the right reasons? And I am. And here I am with you, beautiful souls, sharing this space. I never would have thought I'd be here like 2 years ago. It's crazy.
right?
It's crazy.
Um, yeah, that's an awesome experience. I think that your soul always knows what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to get there. It's very common. I've heard that Reiki also helps open you back up. Like, I think, like you said, when you grow up in religion and stuff like that, you shut that down. I wish so many people, this was me included, would realize that if we didn't like conform so much to our religion, we may be more open. So many more people would be using their gifts right now. And so many people have it like stagnant within each other. Did you always know that you were a medium, or you just like, was it more like psychic or premonition work?
Probably didn't know what a medium was back then. I feel like a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between a psychic and a medium because they're not actually the same thing. Because you can be a psychic but not a medium, but if you're a medium, you are psychic. So a psychic reads energy, a medium is someone who connects to those that have crossed over on the other side of the veil. So growing up, I didn't really understand those terms. I just knew that I could sense and feel that there was more than what we saw. And it's almost like this deep internal knowing that no matter what, you could never tell me otherwise. I feel it so strongly that it's like ingrained in my soul. So I feel like I definitely came here with a purpose to walk a spiritual path. I think it was in my soul's evolution in this lifetime to, in my opinion, when I look at my numerology chart, is actually to master mediumship. Because I have a lot of 11s, 22s, which are, um, oh, why is it? They're not prime numbers. What's the master numbers? Thank you. 11, 22, 33. So I have a lot of 11s and 22s in my chart. So I feel like I've come here to master spirituality, but also to teach and show people that there is really nothing to be afraid of, and that fear is a lot of times you blocking
True.
your expansion. And it's actually like, what do they say the acronym is? False evidence appearing real. So I feel like a lot of that is created by the human programming, the human consciousness, but it's not actually real. And I feel like you can break down those walls and it really can be quite expansive what you find on the other side if you're willing to take that chance.
Yeah.
I know
Um,
Robbie's dying to ask me something here. I feel like it's no, am I wrong?
Actually, no, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I think that I think that's really great that you talked about because you said, I don't know why I'm talking about this, and you went to talk about on to talk about a coping mechanism
Oh
that you
yeah.
dealt with, and I find that great because that's part of what makes you and Lara and I all authentic, right? It's because when we get on here and we talk about everything, right? Everything that affects us. And a lot of that, and I think with you, especially talking about that today, it just tells our listeners that, oh, hold on just a second. I'm sorry.
No worries. What was your coping mechanism growing up, Lara? Were you like a suppressor too?
um, no, I've always been super emotional. So for
Okay.
me, I'd cry it out. A bit of a crybaby. I did want to ask you though,
Yeah.
going back to your religion, right? So how did you overcome that? Like, how did you move through that? Was that like the hardest block to move through as you were becoming a medium? How did you like tell your family about this? Because obviously they share the same religion as
So I had an interesting dynamic growing up. My mom was religious, but my dad wasn't. My dad actually doesn't believe in God. And when I'd gotten to about the age of 13, I was going to youth group. I was really starting to questioning my belief systems because what I was reading in the Bible really wasn't lining up with what I was experiencing and feeling my whole life. And my dad, bless his heart, he taught me no matter what anyone tells you, you always come to the conclusion yourself. Do all the research, think about things and you make up your own mind. Never let anyone tell you what to believe. So I feel like for me, that really gave me permission. And my dad said, if you don't want to go back to church, you don't have to, which, made my mom very upset because my mom was very, adamant about going to church on Sundays. And that kind of started a fight between them. But I was so grateful for that because I felt like it wasn't in alignment with everything I knew and felt to be true. And then as I got older, I feel like it was just natural for me. I was really drawn to spirituality. I'd gone to see psychic mediums that I knew. I remember being petrified before I saw my first one because I knew it was going to shift and change everything. I tried to suppress everything, like, no, I'm just, seeing things. It's not really true. Because your mind, I feel like as a human, you want to, as safety, you want to believe that, the matrix, the 3D is exactly what it is, right? We go to work every day, we have this, 3D life, and, you get the car and the job, and you go do a birthday party, you do all these things. But I always knew there was more to that than what we see. And I feel like it just kept coming up in so many various ways that I couldn't ignore it. So I feel like I just had to take that step forward. I was a little bit nervous about, I guess, coming out of the spiritual closet with my family. I knew my mom would be accepting of it because even though this is the interesting part, my mom is religious, she also had experiences where she would see spirit and she would tell my dad, and he'd be like, crazy, like you're seeing things, all like da 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 da. So even though she was really religious, she still had this other side to her. So I feel like it was very accepting for her. My dad, he's accepting of me no matter what I do. My brother, not so much. Um, and my sister
has
and I
this
don't really
changed
talk
your dad
about
at
it.
all?
Sorry.
Has this changed things for your dad now that you do this? Like, is he more of a believer now?
I don't think he'll ever admit that, but
Yeah.
I think so because I think that he values, I shouldn't say I think, I know he values my opinion. And I'm the type of person, I do a lot of research. I'm a Capricorn. We're very practical by nature. So it's kind of like for a Capricorn to believe in like the spiritual woo-woo, you need a lot of evidence to prove because Capricorn's earth signs were very 3D, what we can touch, what we can see, what we can feel. So for me, um, I feel like he's kind of shifted his perspective, but I don't know if he actually wants to admit that.
That's fair.
First, I
Yeah.
want to apologize. It is 7:45 in the PM where I am at, and there was a little girl selling baked goods knocking at my door.
Oh no.
I thought I was getting busted for something I didn't do. I don't know. I was arrested. The cops were showing up. I don't know. You don't knock on somebody's door like that at 7:45 at night.
At this time of night.
I know. What if I was in bed? I apologize about that,
The new
That's
ladies.
okay.
midnight.
And it's funny because I'm keeping it in. We're keeping it in. We have to because you guys were
Did
talking.
you at least get some cookies?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
What? You just sent her away.
It was
Okay.
7:45 in the PM. um, I do want to ask you, Ashley. I don't even know where it's a lot of song, but earlier, so forget it. I'm sure it was not that good anyway. But um, you talked about being religious, growing up religious. Has there ever been a point when you've been like practicing spirituality where you've started blending the two? What you know now to be your truth in spirituality with what you learned growing up, and maybe deciding that maybe not of it, all of it was false, but just taken in a different context or a different light.
I think I try to look at it from a very simplistic view, and that Someone could believe in Christianity and I believe in source, but to me, God, source is the same thing. So I feel like when you really boil religion down, we actually do believe the exact same thing. We believe in a higher power, we believe in love, we believe in being a good person. So I feel like for me, I'm going to be very cautious here. I've always kind of steered away from religion because I feel like it's meant to control, and I feel like it takes you out of your power. And I know I've said this before on like a previous episode, but I do believe I have the same belief as someone who believes in religion and that we both believe in God. So I try to find, I guess, the commonality in
Yeah.
that, the unity in
Yeah.
that, as opposed to the differences.
Yeah. I can see that. I think I talked about maybe at the very beginning of our podcast, I wrote a blog post once about how shadow work is just basically different religious practices by different name, right? Like confession is a form of shadow work. And Yom Kippur, is shadow work, and so I think it's interesting that, you are religious and you're kind of saying the same thing, that yeah, it is the same. It's just there have been so many rules and constructs built around religion to kind of get you not to experience the full spectrum of what God's source is about, right? And finding yourself and learning that you have all of the power within you. I know that sounds cheesy and cliche, but it's true. It's
Is
really true. And
Mhm.
I'm so thank you for speaking to that truth. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. I know it's a tough one because I feel like religion is really deeply ingrained in the human experience.
It is.
And people
Yeah.
don't want to, they're really hardcore tough on that. So I try to find the common ground and,
Yeah.
say we both, at the end of the day, we both believe in the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Great.
noticed that it's hard for people to understand that like, when you're a medium, because they're like, that's against, what you're supposed to do. It's supposed to be scary. Mediums are supposed to be working against, I guess, the religion. But in my opinion, we are literally doing things in the light of God. We are trying to help heal people. We are doing all these things and practicing maybe even further than people that are within the church at times, because our goal is to do the same thing, is spread love and light throughout people, right? And to help them through the human experience, because it is damn hard to be here, right? So when we do step forward, we are holding space for people that are in grief. We are helping guide people in their spiritual development. And here's the thing, it's not that we're guiding people away from their religion. We are helping these people that are already feeling or thinking, any which way. And we are just providing an open space for them to explore, right? Like, we're not trying, I've never gone into a reading and tried to sway somebody from their religion. That's not my goal. I grew up the same way, right? So it's just giving them a chance to really explore their own thoughts. So for me, mediums move in the light of God. Channelers, we're all light workers. We're not here. We're not doing anything, witchy to hurt people. We're literally doing it for the opposite, right?
I agree. Which I think comes to a great question for you, Ashley, that I would love to ask is, we know you're a medium, we know that you're an energy worker, a Reiki master. What would you say is your favorite type of session or favorite way to work with the client? What does that look like for you?
I love this question. Love, love, love. My favorite reading right now in my journey is a psychic soul purpose, past life reading. Anything also too, anything that has to do with like empowerment.
Yeah.
I absolutely love because I feel like what I've the clients I've had the last few months, I feel have been a certain age range, and a lot of them are at the start of their journey. And I feel like I can really relate to that. And I feel like a lot of people are drawn to me because I am very open about my struggles, my doubts, my fears, where I feel, and I said this actually to a client today, I said, I feel like, and not everyone, I don't want to put everyone in the same basket here, but I feel like a lot of people, we can just keep it general in social media. I feel like a lot of people put on this, this mask, this facade that they have it all figured out, and that, everything is so easy and they didn't struggle. And I feel like I've kind of presented myself and been really open about my struggles. And I feel like people relate to that because it's human, right? Like,
I
I mean,
agree.
I've been doing this a couple years now, and I still, get nervous before readings. I still have, doubts. I still question, am I doing, am I on the right path? Like, am I good enough to do this? I still have all of those fears and those doubts, and I'm working through that, and I'm very open about that. And I feel like I've attracted a lot of clientele recently that are, very, they can resonate with that, and they see the realness in it, and it allows them to be vulnerable, allows them to come forward and be like, you know what, I need help with this and this. I feel overwhelmed, I've got all this going on. What can I do to kind of, get myself in the right position to move forward? So I feel like those readings for me especially just light up my soul, because I feel like that's part of why I came here, is to show people it is possible to have all of these things, all of these doubts, all of these fears, and still do the work and still make it. So
Yeah.
that's
You know,
really like big passion.
I agree. I agree with you, Ashley. We've had discussions before, and I think the three of us have had discussions before about that, right? About being who we truly are and how long it took us to do that, and the
Yep.
struggles that we go through every single day with, am I good enough? Is this really, does this happen? Am I helping the right people? Are the people able to find me? And I think that you and I've had a couple of mediumship readings from you before, and it actually turned into mediumship psychic readings, I think. But you have the same type of purpose that Lara and I both do in your readings, in that not only are you trying to get information, but you're trying to relay why it's important that it's coming through, and what you can do with that information to help better your life, right? Which is something I know I do. That's one of the one reasons I love doing those type of readings as well, is because you're right, it is about the same age group. And there are people out there that are scared to death that they're alone, and that everything that they've gone through is this original type of feeling, right? That I'm the only one in the world that thinks they're failing at this. I'm the only one in the world that can't connect every day. And for you to talk about, and I to talk about, and Larry to talk about, no, this is something that happens to all of our lives. Not every psychic or medium is going to talk about that, just like you said, or Lara said, right? There's some up there that act like they have their shit together, that just put on this facade that I'm the best that's ever happened. And you have never put that on. And that's one thing I love about you, is that
No filter
you are the, yeah, you are the no filter medium, right? I mean, that's who you are. Um, I'm kind of the same way, not no filter medium, but I'm a jerk sometimes. It just happens, right? The way it comes through, it's channeled, right? But I really admire you for that. That you've been through a lot in your life, and to be able to turn it into this positivity that you have about you. I mean, I know there are times that Lara and I are discussing something and get kind of uh not heated but passionate about it, and you're like, oh, now come on, and bringing this happiness and cheerfulness that we're both just kind of like, would you, okay, if you're going to talk like that, just shut up and let us bitch, okay? We don't need your positivity right now, just let us do this, okay? But
grounded sometimes.
yeah, that's why I appreciate you so much, is because you're like that, and you bring us back. So I'm really glad that that's part of your favorite reading to do, because you're very good at it, and anybody would be lucky uh, to get that type of reading from you.
Thank
I
you.
I have another type of reading that you do that you didn't mention that I want
Mm,
you to talk about. Your
okay.
Akashic records,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
This is something you do and you don't actually talk about it enough, but I think it's so intriguing. And for people that don't know, I'd love for you to explain what that is.
Kind of merged it now into like, I changed it into the soul purpose, the past lives. But it's basically a reading that we go into the Akashic records, which I always tell people it's like the iCloud. of all information that has ever existed. We can all access it. It comes from the one field of awareness that we are all a part of. A lot of times when I first started that reading, I would go into the records and I would actually, the visualization I would get is it being like this massive hall or library of books. And I would be drawn to certain books with certain colors, and there was a story that would come out and it was tied to the person's past lives. But I found as I've gained momentum in the last couple of months, I feel like it's kind of shifted to a lot of light workers who have come to see me. It's more about soul purpose. Why are you here in this lifetime? What blocks? Because I feel like that's a really big thing for people is there's a lot of blocks that they just don't know how to move forward from, or move out of the way, or release and step forward. So I feel like it's kind of evolved into a soul purpose reading. Why are you here? What blocks are holding you back? Are these tied to past lives? And I feel like a lot of people really need that type of reading right now to understand the things and the challenges, the difficulties that they're facing so that they can move forward. Because I feel like there's so many light workers right now where a ton of people on this planet are really opening up, and they just need some guidance from people that have, walked the path, before them, and can guide them along the way. So I feel like these readings, especially right now, are very important for the community.
I agree. I think it's always cool for me to hear other people how when they first accessed the records, how they saw it, right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's experience is so different. Mine actually appeared what under the Sphinx, right? It was like I walked down this river and there was like these rooms just as far as they went where people were just going in and out of, right? And it wasn't until I was later that those people were like me, other versions of me going in to the anyway. But I think it's very cool that you can access, that we can access that type of information and help people, right? And Lara, I think we may have had this discussion before, even though she may not recognize it or call it that specifically, she's accessing the records all the time as well,
100,
right?
100%.
And I think that's something too that yes, there are people that do specifically go to the records for very specific things and can help you, but a lot of the people that we work with on a daily basis access it sometimes without even knowing it, right? It's just somewhere some of that information comes from. So I think that's really cool.
You're
I have a
basically,
question.
you're right though. Sorry, Lara, just to clarify for the viewers, is that like everything exists in the one field of consciousness. Everything exists right here, right now. So mediumship, channeling, psychic, to me, at the end of the day, it kind of boils down. It's we're all accessing information from the one field.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like it's one field of awareness, right? It's just where are you pointing your attention to? I guess if I could say it that way.
Makes sense
Yeah,
where
you're
you
right.
need. I guess my question was like, how did you even get into this? How did you know that this, like, because when we do like evidential mediumship, we have validation in those connections. And I know on the last episode we had talked about like trans channeling, like, how do you know that this is the right connection you're making? Is it just a knowing, or has there been like something that's proved something to you? Do your sitters like validate that?
Oh yeah. There's been readings like where and I'm not going to sit here and say every single reading I've ever done was amazing, because I feel like, first of all, every reading is different and there's a reason for that. I definitely 100% trust that, you know, there are certain readings that I've given that were purely evidential and there was a little bit of a message at the end. And then there's other readings that start, with evidential mediumship, but then it's more important for the message to come through. So I feel like different readings go different ways, but I always trust that like everything's spirit led, and what they give me to talk about, what flows through me is what's most needed.
That makes
I
a lot
also
of
feel, Heather, or also feel, Ashley, that there are times that you, even though you may not get the validation or the confirmation right away, that you might hear from somebody weeks or months later and they go, you know what? This happened. And do you remember saying this? And you're like, no, I don't remember that at all. Right. But they remembered it. Right. So that's kind of some kind of validation that, yeah, this is what's coming through. It may not happen then. It happens maybe months later, but I just feel
I've
like
had
that
that
happens to
happen.
you. So,
I
yeah.
have, I have, for people out there listening, I have had readings where I've given someone like six pieces of information. This, a bunch of like very specific information. They couldn't take any of it. And I was like, okay. And I went back and, we brought through someone else. And that can sometimes dim your connection because you get all those no's. Like, no, I can't take any of that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And, it can
Yeah.
deflate your confidence. But I kept going. And 2 weeks later, I get this email and from this client, and she was like, I went back and I listened to the recording, and she was like, everything you said, I just wanted to let you know everything you said was spot on, but I didn't make the connection because I wasn't thinking about it was that person. I wanted someone else. So even though I'd given them all this information for one person, they said no, they couldn't take it. But then when they had re-listened to it, they're like, I could actually take every single piece of that, and I know exactly who that is. So I just wanted to say thank you because you were not wrong, even though I told you were wrong. So that can happen, and
Yeah.
in those moments, that's like, that's what you have to prepare for in a mediumship reading is, you could give information and you could get no after no after no. And don't let that deflate your confidence. Go back, and say to spirit, okay, bring someone else through and then keep working with that. So,
Can I say something though, like about the nose and stuff like that? Sometimes when people come in for readings, they do themselves a disservice by already coming in with such a high expectation of what needs to come through and what is the evidence they want to hear. Now, you can always, say to your loved ones, like, I want this to come through. That doesn't mean that that's what is needed at that time. And that doesn't mean that the spirit that's coming through doesn't love or care about you or want to share these things. It's just there is a certain level of like what is needed in that reading, right? So we do our best to like obviously bring through people that are important, but at the end of the day, we're not sitting there like pulling spirits out of the sky. We're just being the conduit, bringing through who wants to talk that day. You know what I mean? And if they
Yeah.
come through with like such an energy of like, this is the evidence I want, well, we're never going to be able to give you the exact evidence that you want, right?
Right. I've had several readings where at the end of it, they will say, you know what? This was nothing that I wanted, but it was exactly what I needed. It's like I didn't get the information that I thought I wanted from this, but thank you. And
Mhm.
so that helps too, right? When they realize just because they want a certain, answer doesn't mean they're going to get it. And it may not even be touched on, right? And sometimes it's hard to relay information that people don't want to hear, you know. But again, I think that again, like Ashleigh and I and you, Lara, too, I think that's why we were picked to do this. Because my guides told me a long time ago. I remember some of the first readings I had, I held stuff back because I'm like, there's no way I can tell them that. And guides are like, you're supposed to. This is part of what you're supposed to do. You can do it in a manner that other people aren't as good at. I feel like the same way as you guys, right? Is that we can relay this information across and it not be devastating because we give time for them to absorb it and ask questions and explain to them what's going on. And I think another reason that's why I appreciate you and Lara both so much is because we do truly care about not only the way that people see our readings, but also the outcome, right? How they leave and how they process that. So kudos, Ashleigh. Kudos.
thank you. It's always on the forefront is I was taught that, in evidential mediumship, you never want to do any harm. You never want to leave someone worse off than when they came in. And sometimes some of the readings I've encountered have been extremely heavy. And I'm always worried that, I'm going to upset someone. But I always trust, though, too, that spirit is bringing forward certain things because it's what's really needed. So I have to trust that, even though some of the things that have come forward have been, and I don't want to, dark is not the right word, but just heavier
Yeah.
um
I
emotions
can
and
I can absolutely attest to this as one of the readings that came through that was heavy for her, that she handled it extremely well. I will tell you, she was very hesitant because she
was.
was saying, I do not want to talk about this. And I kept telling her, there's a reason it's coming through. Say it. Okay. So I can attest that she does do it. It's hard because the stuff that was coming through was not easy stuff to discuss. But again, I appreciated the fact that she brought it up because it was something that needed to be addressed in my life. So, anybody that's listening that may want to book with any of us and get that bluntness, just understand that, like Ashley's saying here, it's not always something that we like to do.
Well,
It's,
she still
it's
has nice bedside manner,
She
you know.
does.
cute.
She does.
It's in the way it comes across, right? That I
Right.
think matters most.
Right.
I think sometimes that's what hinders me, if I'm being completely honest, is I feel like my guides can be very direct. And, when you're working with spirit, you're trying not to analyze because you're taught not to analyze, just say what you get. And then sometimes, but I say I'm the no filter, but I do try to, I'm trying to think of the right word. I try to, because I don't want to say I'm changing it, but I think I'm really good at going back to my guides and maybe rewording it in a way that still gets the directness across, but it's still soft and in like uplifting and empowering. It's never meant to bring someone out of their power. So it's always coming from the right place. But I also do trust that a lot of people that come to me, because I do hear this a lot, they'll just say, give it to me. So they like my directness and the fact that I'm not sugarcoating. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. If I really do, yeah, if I'm getting messages from spirit, it's meant to empower and uplift you. It's never meant to take you out of your power. But I can't always control how other people perceive things. So,
Yeah. That's a big lesson learned, right? Is
yeah.
that we can't control the way other people see us. Oh, that's a hard one. That's a
And
tough one.
Bashar said this the other day. He said, it's none of your business. And I was like, I had to sit on that. I was like,
Yeah, right. It's none of my business.
hmm. But I was like, he's Bashar. I'm like, he's always right.
He's always
Like,
right.
he's
He's
right.
always right.
Even though you don't
So
want to hear it, you're like, damn it.
I would like to ask you, Ashley, before we end, if there was one thing that you could, I'm going to say if because you're going to get the chance to, what is one thing that you would like to tell the watchers and listeners right now, that you think is important for them to hear about you?
About me, I was going to say, like, what came through there
Or in
first was
general?
like,
In general,
yeah,
I would love to hear
what
about
came
you or in general.
what came through there was you can do anything that you imagine. Anything is possible. You are the only thing that is holding you back. I pulled a bunch of cards today, and this is the message that came out for me, but I feel like everyone can relate to this message is that we are the one thing that holds ourselves back. We think we have all these limitations, we have, these perceived blocks, but all of it is transmutable. You can literally be anything and become anything that you want. Step into your power and let the transformation happen. You're the only thing standing in your way. And if you just take little small steps every single day and keep pushing towards that goal, I feel like the fear starts to slowly fade away into the background. And then you start to get empowered and you gain this momentum. So I feel like the message here today is go after what it doesn't have to be a spiritual path. Whatever lights you up, whatever you're passionate about, go after it. You might as well,
That's
like,
amazing.
you're here to live life. Like, play the hand that you're dealt to the best of your ability.
I love
That's
that.
a, I do too. I heard something a while back, and I try to live by it every day. Is that try to get up every day and say, I have enough for today. I have enough for today. I'm going to survive today, and then live your day, right? And see what comes of it. So that's a great advice, Ashley. I think it's great, and it's a theme too. I had a reading earlier today that was the exact message that came out. So I think the energy is right on target there with, I mean, I'm going
Go
through that
for it.
too, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody's going through that. Just step in, just take that first step
Yeah.
and let the road appear, right?
Yeah. You take all
So
those little
where
steps every single day, eventually stuff's going to change. I think people, they take one or two steps, they get discouraged and they stop. It's like, keep going, keep taking those little steps, and that momentum will build. That consistency will pay off. Keep going. You
Yeah.
got this. Yeah.
I was gonna say, where can people find you if they want to book with you? Um, what's your socials? for everyone.
Hmm. I am the nofiltermedium.com. On IG, I'm the underscore no filter medium. That's right. So I had to think about that. And then on Facebook, it is, I believe, Ashleigh.page.111, or you can just
Ooh,
search me under Ashleigh Page.
Ashley dot
Find
page
me
dot one
there.
one one. What about TikTok? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just downloaded it today. And I got so overwhelmed with all the videos and I was like, how do I like swipe? And like I don't understand like how it works. So I've got to really like take some time and figure it out because it was,
Oh,
I'm not
it
gonna lie,
won't.
it's a little overwhelming.
It won't take you that long at all. It won't
Oh,
take you long at
and
all.
Mediums and a Large has now made a TikTok account.
Ooh,
So go on and follow that. Um, yeah, we're gonna kind of start spreading out across social media a little bit.
do it. Those little
Yeah,
steps, right?
yeah, we plan on doing some really cool things in the future. So you guys, stay
Yeah.
tuned, pay attention. We're going to start doing a lot of things together, and I think it'll be fun. And so, stay
It'll be
tuned. All right,
okay.
guys, I
Thank you
love
for
to
sharing
chat.
your story with us today.
Thank you to all the viewers. I love you guys. Thank you.